Hello, I am Jen Armstrong, Director of Alumni Engagement at Monmouth College, and welcome to Sippin with the Scots, the Wine Edition. We are thrilled to be here tonight with our alums and friends from around the country. And tonight we have two presenters with many, many talents. They are both professional educators, which means they are going to be naturals at this, and they have a very special affinity for wine. And if you live in Monmouth, you can frequently find them at our beloved Market Alley Wines. And they've really kind of become Monmouth's best friends. So we're lucky to have them here with us tonight. We are grateful also to have Craig Vivian as a regular presenter this semester at our virtual event world. He's been teaching education at Monmouth College for 20 years, and he's also a practicing beekeeper for the last 10 years. At the age of 22, Dr. Vivian and his wife Jessica joined the Peace Corps. They spent 13 years living and traveling around the world, places like Kiribati, the Sudan, Zimbabwe, and a couple of places where he learned just a little bit about wine, Switzerland and France. Sarah Walters was born and raised here in Monmouth. She taught grade school and middle school for 15 years. Sarah and her husband Jeff found a place to fill their sense of adventure when they bought Market Alley Wines in 2017. Having a love of wine and an even bigger love of the people of Monmouth and the area, a beautiful place for friends to gather and enjoy wine, music, and friendship emerged. So before we get started, I want to do a little housekeeping. I want you to encourage you to interact with each other on the chat function. So make sure when you're chatting, choose the option of all panelists and attendees, and then everyone can see. And after the presentation, if you have a question for us, we can turn on the camera and you can ask directly if you'd like to, or just let me know and I can read the question for you. So we appreciate Craig and Sarah volunteering tonight for the presentation. But before we begin, I think it's very appropriate right now in 2020 to start with the Scottish toast that means to your health. It's pronounced Slàinte. So with me on the count of 3, let's toast each other. Slàinte.
Slàinte.
And with that, I hand it over to you, Craig and Sarah. Let's get started.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Those of you who might have seen me do the apiary or the bee session or the Scotch session with Mark Wilhart will know that in both of those sessions, I frequently alluded to wine, and because wine was really my first love. And I was so happy when the wine shop here opened, and I have been doing everything I can to get there weekly. Of course, we've kind of had some trouble with the current situation, but Sarah's been so welcoming. I've taught a wine class there before for the college. For several years, I taught a wine class. I have a gaming session that we do once or twice a week. And so we've just really, it's become my second home, or I think what's it called, my third place, something like that. It's my favorite place to hang out here. And so, Sarah, I just wanted to maybe start off and you can tell us a little bit about maybe what's going on. And I didn't know if you'd like to start off. We're coming up on some holidays. If you maybe wanted to talk a little bit about the 5 wines we have and maybe how they might pair up with some foods.
Absolutely. COVID has been an interesting beast this year. We have gone through the roller coaster of being open, being closed, being outside, being inside. Then we were exposed to COVID. And so I'm under lockdown right now. Which is why we're all in different places. I'm fine. My husband has it, and I think he's had very mild symptoms, so we're really glad about that. So we're ready for COVID to take a back seat so the rest of our lives can go forward. Anyway, but yes, so hopefully if we get out of lockdown as anticipated, we will be open next Tuesday, just in time for people to get those coveted bottles for their Thanksgiving dinners. A lot of people ask, what should I serve? What kind of wine goes with turkey? What kind of wine goes with ham? We all do different things now. Some people have crab legs. Some people have prime rib, so there's so many different things. It's not really necessarily the traditional turkey. Some people are vegetarian or vegan, and so there's no meat at the table. So, even though wine pairing with food is definitely a true thing, and the food complements the wine and the wine complements the food, I'm a firm believer that you drink what you like to drink. So just because you're having a big juicy fillet doesn't mean you can't have a glass of Chardonnay. If that's the wine of your choice, then drink it. So, but some of the wines that pair well, Chenin Blanc is a really good white that pairs well with your turkey and things. If you're a white drinker, same with Pinot Gris, Pinot Grigios. Those are also kind of tart and acidic, and they complement the turkey really well. Also, if you're a red wine drinker, the Pinot Noir is probably one of the best wines to have with your turkey. And there's so many great Pinot Noirs out there. The people from Oregon in the Willamette Valley, they sure know how to make good Pinots. And so, there's a lot. You can get some great Pinot Noirs for under $20. We pretty much pride ourselves in that here at Market Valley Wines. But there's a really good Pinots out there for over 20, Mary Edwards and David Bruce and things like that. So really, as I said, just kind of do what you want to do and drink what you want to drink. And we're going to be sitting around the table, and there's probably going to be less people than before. So we really just need to drink what we want to drink this year and not worry about following any rules, because the rules, I think, kind of went out the window. So I don't know about you, but.
That is true. Well, great. I know, and I agree with Sarah. I completely agree that you should be drinking what you find enjoyable, what you find goes with whatever you're eating. A lot of these rules were, rules are meant to be broken, I think, right? The one thing I would add, for me, a lot of times the things that I think are kind of interesting to as you move through different wines and wine pairings is to think about a few ways to kind of frame what you're doing. And so one of those I think would be thinking about the weight of the wine, the feel of the wine in the mouth, and the texture of the wine. So I think a lot of times when you're pairing, maybe you start to, as we'll go through some of these, we'll talk about that. I think some of those characteristics, but I think things to think about sometimes are with fish, for example. The reason a lot of people would immediately think about pairing a white, a Sauvignon Blanc, or maybe a dry Riesling, Grigio, or Chardonnay with fish or with turkey or chicken would be because of the texture, that the weight and texture of those meats are different than the texture and weight of, let's say, a filet mignon or a larger, denser steak. But I do think that it makes it kind of interesting to kind of then play around with those different characteristics of the wine and the food. All right, so I guess to get started, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to go through the Freak Show line of wines, right, Sarah? And can you just tell us what we've got?
So the reason that we chose to do this, first of all, because we're all spread out around the country and possibly the world. I don't know how many international people are joining us, but I tried to pick things that maybe everybody could get if they wanted to be able to participate with us with either the whole flight or at least one of the bottles that they might be able to find. I didn't want to pick something obscure that maybe they wouldn't have. I'm a huge fan of the Michael David wine producers. They produce amazing wines. They're usually, this Freak Show line is very affordable. Depending on where you are, you should be able to find these for under $20. And they're really good. The Michael David family, they're out of Lodi, California, and they've been there for a long time. It was started by, there's two brothers, Michael and David Phillips. I knew Michael David, but Phillips is their last name. So that's where we get the Michael David. They're just great wine producers. And I found since being at the wine shop that there are some really extremely amazing wine producers out there. And you kind of get to the point where once you find a wine producer that you like, you can almost guarantee that everything they produce is going to be pretty good. You know, you've got the Michael Davids, you've got the Camises of the world, you know, the Wagner family, you've got the Dry Creeks of the world. I love Dry Creek. I love just everything that they do. This Chenin Blanc is amazing. If you haven't got anything for your turkey yet, I highly recommend this one. You know, so there are some great wine producers. So we decided to go with a producer so that you could see. Orrin Swift is another one of my favorites. Dave Finney, he's the winemaker. I think he's spectacular. So we thought we'd do that. So that's why we're going to do Freak Show. Plus, it's kind of fun because 2020's frankly been a freak show. So this seems appropriate.
And our first wine, Sarah, will be the Chardonnay.
That's the Freak Show Chardonnay. Absolutely. And the Chardonnay, this is a 50-50 fermentation. So they do 50% in oak and then 50% stainless steel. So it's kind of one of those in-betweens for those of you that are not a full-bodied, totally oaky, buttery Chardonnay lover. You'll probably enjoy this. It's not, it doesn't, you know, punch you like a Rombauer or something like that would, but yet it's got some body to it. Obviously, Craig, you can speak to the tasting, the color, and the mouthfeel and all those things.
All right. Well, good. Well, so for those of you who want to do the following, please feel free to. We'll do it quickly, but for the remainder of our session, then one thing to do would be to maybe get yourself a napkin, a white napkin or a white piece of paper, if you are interested in looking at the wine, to look at its color. And one way to do that is just to put the paper, yes, you can either put it right behind it, you can put it down on the table in front of you, and then tilt the glass over like this. And as you're doing that, what you'll be able to do is compare the color, not only the color, but the density of the wine, the opacity of the wine. How well can you see through it? And the reason you do that is first and foremost because by looking and comparing the colors, especially of different aged wines, you can start to get better at determining how old the wine might be. So for example, all wines through oxidation end up changing color over time. Red wines will start more on the ruby end of color, and as they get older, they'll start to become more tawny or have a brown hue to them. Whites will start off more with most of them with a straw color, and they'll end up getting a little bit more golden color as they get older. So that's just one of the things that you can do, is to use it as a comparison. So the other thing we do is, so we look at the wine, you know, so we, in swirling is something that if you can't do it yet, or you're not very good at it, you will get good at it. I would suggest that you do this first. You start on the table, and that keeps your base of your glass on a level surface, and just start going around like this. As you get better at it or more, experience, you can do it in your hand. I can do 3 at once while I'm juggling, but I won't do that tonight. What you're doing is you are moving the wine around the glass to allow it to get more surface area so that it releases its aromas. What you will be doing as you do this is, if you look at the glass through through to some light, you'll be able to see what are called the legs or the tiers of the wine. That's just an indication, a very loose indication of the viscosity of the wine, meaning the sugar level. And so it has nothing to do with quality per se. You can't just by looking at the legs or the tiers determine how good a wine is, but it does give you an indication of its viscosity. If you did the same thing with water, for example, if you swirled water, you would see that those legs, there are no legs to water because there is no sugar in there. So go ahead.
These wines that we're tasting tonight, these are young wines. None of the wines we're tasting tonight will be ones that would have been cellared. There's such a demand for wine right now that they have to produce wines that are drinkable now. Obviously, there are others like these that you can cellar and age for years, but everything we're going to try tonight are wines that are drinkable now. They are produced for immediate consumption.
And I would say, unless you're really in a small percentage of people who are collecting wine, that's great if you do. Most of the wines you get, you should be drinking them between now and 2 to 3 years from now when you buy the wine. So anyway, so if we look at it, so here's I would say the way that if you want to kind of just enhance or kind of develop your appreciation for wine, is to look at it first, get a sense of the color. This is it's a light straw color. Chardonnays will have that kind of a little bit of that golden tint to it. You will then want to smell the wine, right? After you swirl it, you'll want to smell it. And what you will get, in this wine, you will get a lot of citrus, some pineapple, or I'm getting pineapple. So we'll compare notes. Now you will get different things. My nose is not that great. I mean, a lot of people say from this angle it is, but my nose is not that great. I'm sure Sarah, I know for a fact Sarah has a much better nose than I do. So I'm picking up just the kind of more pronounced aromas. But Sarah, what are you getting out of this?
Also very fruit forward, kind of a little bit of a honeydew, possibly maybe a little pear.
Yep.
And what I found is interesting throughout the years when I've done wine tastings or participated in them, even if I'm not leading them, it's funny how your minds can be led to something. So if I said, "Ooh, I smell tobacco,"
yes,
then somebody might go, "Oh, I do smell tobacco," but I do. I smell honeydew, a little.
Yep.
Maybe it's just I love Chardonnay, so to me this is a very pleasing nose.
Yeah, good. And and I'm with you. I mean, I do a lecture when I used to teach the wine class. I would do a lecture on whether or not you should share your impressions of a wine, because you can lead someone down a certain path by starting to share. Yeah. So we do that. We swirl, we sniff. And now let's taste Chardonnays. As Sarah said earlier, this one you said was 50-50 barrel. What did you say, American or French oak?
My French, I think. I would have to look at their specs on that.
So some oak and then stainless steel. There's a debate, of course, always on anything that has to do with wine. And one of those is, do you put wine into barrels to age or not? And there's arguments on both sides. Just very quickly, the stainless steel will impart nothing to the wine. You'll let the grape do its own thing. You'll get that purity of the varietal or the grape itself, the wine. With the barrel, what you're getting is the addition of the oak, and that a lot of times will come off as or impart some vanilla to the wine, or some wood, right? Some of the flavors of the sometimes tannins also. So anyway, what have we got on the palate here?
So we have just a few observations of what people are drinking. A lot of people are drinking the Freak Show Reds. We have a Pinot Noir from Revolve Wines, a Route 1 Carmier. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Kathy Platt is drinking the Dry Creek Chenin Blanc on Sarah's recommendation. And we have one other listener that bought that for Thanksgiving on your recommendation. And we have a couple questions. Someone wants to know, Sarah, what's your maiden name?
Toomey.
So I think someone might know your family.
Yeah.
And are there controls on the percentage of sulfites?
Can you repeat that?
Are there any controls on the percentage of sulfites?
I don't think so. I think it's hard to control that. I mean, it's just a naturally occurring part of the winemaking process. this is a good time for me to lay the disclaimer that I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form. So I do not come to this table trying to make you think that I know more than anybody, because I don't. And as a former teacher, I am the first to admit if I don't know, and will go find that information for you. I don't believe that there is a lot of control. Craig, do you
No.
think it's a naturally occurring process?
Right. No. And I am a professor, so I must make you believe I am an expert. And so, no, I do know this. I know that sulfites are a naturally occurring part of wine as it goes through the process of fermentation, et cetera. And the sulfites will disappear for the most part over time. So there's also something, just in case, I don't know, there's tartrites also. Tartrites are a little thing that looks like glass in the bottom of your usually white wines. And a lot of people think that it looks like glass or something. And so those are also naturally occurring. But
And I think that the sulfites, I mean, some brands are trying to take those out.
yes, through filtration, yes.
They can filter those and either remove them or diminish them. But as far as, I think it is just it's just a natural occurring process.
Good question. All right, so we've got a Chardonnay which has had some oak in it. I do think on the palate.
I love it. I taste.
Yeah.
I love it because to me it's just the perfect balance of.
Yeah.
I like the oak, but I don't like an overpowering oak.
Yeah.
Chardonnay people are very picky, just like Sauvignon Blanc people are very picky. To me, this is the perfect Chardonnay because it's that 50-50 blend.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, this does not. Do you like this one? Does not have any butter. Do you like your Chardonnays with a lot of butter?
No, I don't. That's why I like this one, because to me it's a 50-50. It's got a little bit more volume to it than a traditional unoaked. It's got a little bit. You can 50%, but it's not snocky in the face.
Yeah. All right. Good.
While we're on Chardonnay still, we had one other question along the sulfite line, which is, does unoaked wine have less sulfates than oaked?
Oh boy, these people.
Right. Again, that I don't know, but just as an educated guess, I would say, since it's not the wood or the stainless steel that would impart sulfites or would do anything to the wine, then I would say there should be no difference, but I do not know that for a fact.
I don't either. And I have a best friend, her name is Google. And
there you go.
If I have a question like that I'm unsure of, I ask Google or Alexa. If you have Alexa in your house, you can ask her too.
All right.
Well, that was a good educated guess.
Okay. So as my reward, I will say, let's move to the next wine.
Deal.
Now, what is our next wine? I'll hold it up here so people can see the label a little bit here.
Start with the red blend.
Yes.
Red blend.
Okay. As you can see, the labels of the freak show are always have to do something with the circus, kind of the carnival-esque. They're really interesting labels. I used to do a lecture on labels, and you'll see that America, for example, is very, very interested in making labels that are fun, that are trying to get you to kind of think of them as adding to the enjoyment of drinking your wine. If you look at French labels, they're coming along, they're coming around, but they're still much more austere. They'll usually have a picture of a chateau or a castle somewhere, trying to let you know that, hey, this is royalty here doing this stuff, right? We're much more playful with our wine labels, and I really appreciate that. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's very true. I mean, we have a wall of wine that encompasses, I don't know, I probably at least 300 different bottles, and it makes a difference. The labels, sometimes people will come in and they'll say, what should I get? Well, if you don't know, choose the label you like. We try not to carry any wine here that is not good, so I've personally tasted every single bottle in this place. I know it's a hard job, but I wouldn't have anything that is not good. And I can put my ego on the back shelf and even if it's not something that I like, I can kind of maybe say, oh, somebody else would like this. So that's kind of helpful too. But yeah, labels are key. So this is a blend. Sometimes in a blend, they will tell you what the blend is, and sometimes they won't. If it says proprietary blend on the label, that means basically that the winemakers are saying, aha, we are not going to tell you what we put in here because we're taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Sometimes they will tell you. Now, Michael David does tell you on this. So their blend, I have to cheat on my notes because
Can I take a guess real quick?
yes.
As I take a guess, but only because, again, an educated guess, because and we'll talk about this in a minute, but if you go to French wines or most other old world wines from Europe, they're not going to be giving you the name of the varietal or the grape on the label like we do. So this will say Chardonnay, for example. In France, this would be labeled as a Burgundy, and or a Bourgogne. But in France, especially with Bordeaux, the major grapes that are the varietals that are used are almost all Bordeaux are blends. And so the major grapes will be used will be Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, probably Cabernet Franc, maybe Syrah, and I'll stop there. But those are, Grenache. Well, no, Grenache will be over in the Rhone. But those four, I think, would probably, so I'm guessing at least two of those will be in this blend, Merlot and Cabernet.
It's like, who wants to be a millionaire? Do you want to do a 50-50? Because you would be the weakest link right now if you watch. Okay, so it's Syrah, it's Petite Syrah, and here's the kicker. This is the kicker. It's the Suzoho, which is a Portuguese blending grape.
Oh, wow.
Used to blend, but it is in here now.
Interesting.
Suzaho, I guess is how you say it. Suzaho.
Yeah.
I'm not Portuguese. I wish maybe if Francisco was listening, he could tell us. It's the grape that's usually used in port making.
Okay.
So
very cool.
I love Syrah. I love Petite Syrah. Those are Grenache. Those are some of my favorite grapes. So I'm a big fan of this.
And the nose, you're definitely going to get pepper, black pepper in the nose. Or at least I am.
Yeah, totally. And berry, I like blackberry currant.
Blackberry, yep. And so for those of you who know, if you're getting into wine, or you're starting to get into wine, one of the fun things is to, if you can, I would try to drink a varietal, if you can, a single varietal at the beginning, so you can get the kind of characteristics or the traits of that varietal that you can pick up later. Syrah will almost always have a hint of black pepper in some form, maybe some tobacco, maybe some leather, things like that. Those actually, Syrah is my favorite. Syrah and Zinfandel are my favorite varietals because having lived in France, I used to drink almost solely Côte du Rhônes. And so I really became partial to those. But this has got a nice nose.
It does.
If you look at the color, it's going to be fairly, it's a good dark color. You can still see your fingers through it, but it's a nice color, nice deep color.
And it's smooth. I like it. It's an easy.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't.
Now, something you said earlier, Sarah, which correct me if I'm wrong here, but this one actually is very fruit forward, which is indicative of when you hear about old world and new world wines. One of the things that is a kind of demarcation or a kind of a way to differentiate between new world and old world. One of the things is the forwardness of the fruit. Old world wines traditionally have avoided putting all that fruit forward. They're a little bit more reserved in the fruit, whereas American wines, New World wines, Australia, America, others are very much pushing the fruit forward. And this is very much in that form of of winemaking, which is the blackberry or the, I don't know what else. It's definitely a black or dark fruit.
And that's the interesting thing. A lot of times when people will come into the wine shop and they're looking for a wine, and if I tell them that it's very fruit forward, they hear the word fruit and they automatically think sweet.
Oh, right.
So then I have to tell them, no, it doesn't. That doesn't mean that it's sweet. It just means you can taste the grape, almost like, if you had grape jelly. I mean, you taste the grape, you taste the fruit, but it's not in a sweet way. You
Right.
just taste the fruit. So when people tell you it's a fruit forward, or if you like this, then you would know if you're going to, a Total Wine or a Binny's or whatever, you would say, I like a fruit forward wine. And then the people there could help you, find those wines that fit that bill.
Yeah. This is excellent. I haven't had this before. This is really nice. This is, like you said, it's very smooth. The tannins are very low. And tannins. So let me just real quick talk about tannins. Tannins come from the addition, or I'll say the leaving in grapes of the seeds, the stems, and the skin. So from those, especially the stems and the seeds, come the tannins. The tannins are a quality of wine, especially red wines, where it kind of makes you pucker up a little bit. It's like you would find tannins in dark black teas, for example. It kind of dries out parts of your, either your tongue or your cheeks, and it's just an astringent feel. And if that's balanced, it's really nice because it is an additional characteristic of the wine that come. And you might want to, if you want to kind of get it in its real sense, you might take if you ever have a grapevine or something, you take off or if you buy some grapes at the store and you just chew a little bit on one of the stems, you'll get some of that indications of that tannin that you would find in wines later on.
Yes.
Anything else about this? That's interesting. That the Syrah, definitely I get, and I think that's cool. I would not have, of course, I didn't know about the other, the Portuguese varietal, but it's really nice. This is a good blend.
The other nice thing about the Phillips family, the Michael David producers, they're all sustainable. And that's a thing in the Lodi region is sustainability. So they work really hard to meet the standards that need to be met in order to be able to claim that. And it's a family organization, which I love. Two brothers, and now one of the brothers, his two children are now also in the business. And so I don't know, I just think there's something special when you can pass it on to the next generation, which it was, the farm, they've had the land in the 1800s. I mean, so they've been farming that land for a long time.
Cool.
It wasn't until just in the last 100 years or so that they started switching over to producing wine and things like that.
That's cool. That's very cool. Well, Sarah brings up another issue that if you get into wine, something you'll hear a lot, and that's the term is terroir, and it's Terroir. Terroir is the French word for soil or land, and what that is supposed to mean for especially the French, and for others too. Everybody talks about terroir now, but what that means is that the land, the soil, imparts certain qualities into the roots, of course, of the grapevine, which then find their way, in the theory, up to the grapes and into the wine, so that the place where you grow it adds something unique to the grape itself. You're going to lose something or gain something depending on where you actually plant your vine. And so that's a big piece of when you talk to the French, especially they really emphasize terroir.
Especially those, like you said, those areas where it's they have to struggle. The vines have to, sometimes you get the greatest wine because of that.
Yes.
Chenin Blanc came from the Loire Valley, and now it's gone everywhere, but it started there, and it's got that mineral taste to it.
Yep.
Not in an off-putting way, but it's just very mineralistic, and it's tangy, and I kind of liken it to a tart Granny Smith apple. I love the Chenin Blanc. I just think it's just spectacular. I especially Dry Creek. So I hope those of you that bought that for Thanksgiving are happy. If you're not, then come see me and I'll.
And that's true. And one of the things Sarah is kind of alluding to here is this idea. Let's look at the Chenin Blanc. Let's look at some of these others that we talk about. Chardonnay, for example. They're called the noble varieties. The noble grapes are those grapes that over time, I'm guessing there's probably 30 of them, 25 or so. Noble grapes are those varietals that are given that distinction because they have proven themselves to be, number one, they make great quality wines, but also they can thrive in many different places. So Cabernet is grown just about all over the world. Chardonnay is grown all over the world. Some wines are not. For example, one of my favorite wines, Zinfandel, is not a noble grape because it's really only grown in a few places. It's grown in California, and it's grown in Italy. It's called, what's it called in Italy? Do you know? It's Primitivo. Primitivo. It's the Primitivo varietal in Italy, but it doesn't really grow very many other places, so it's not a noble.
Which is a good way. So, a lot of grapes share names. So, for example, a Pinot Gris and a Pinot Grigio, it's the same grape.
Yep.
So the Pinot Gris is the French name. The Pinot Grigio is the Italian name, but it's the same grape. Now that grape has expanded, like you've said, and now lots of people are growing that grape.
Yep.
But if you go and you say, oh, I really like the Pinot Gris, and somebody says, well, try this, it's a Pinot Grigio, that's okay. You can do that.
Yeah.
Same with a Sancerre and a Sauvignon Blanc. It's kind of like the Champagne.
Yes.
In order for it to be called Champagne, it has to be from the Champagne region. Otherwise, everything else is a sparkling wine.
Yep.
But so with Sauvignon Blanc, if it's in the Sancerre region, it can be called a Sancerre. Otherwise, it can't.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of kind of tricky things out there that, you kind of have to learn and again, ask Alexa or Google, and they'll help you figure that out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and a couple of things that Sarah just mentioned. One is champagne, right? A lot of times, you're right. By law, nothing can be called champagne unless it's grown in the Champagne region, the Rheims area. But what you'll find is a lot of times people will make either a sparkling wine or they'll put on their label méthode champenoise, and that means that they're using the champagne method of multiple fermentations, etc. Now, what goes into champagne? That's interesting. This is again, what varietals? Usually there are 3 varietals that go into champagne. Those would be Pinot Noir, those would be Chardonnay, and a grape called Meunier. And those 3, you don't hear much about Meunier, but you definitely do hear the other 2. And you're thinking, well, isn't Pinot a red grape or red wine? Well, you probably already know this, but just for those if you don't know, all grapes are white. Inside, everything's white. What's that?
I said, take the skin off.
Oh, yeah. And so the only way that you make red wine is to leave the skin on. And so other than that, if you didn't leave the skin on and let it kind of bleed into the wine, all wine would be white. So
Rosés also. A lot of people, rosés have kind of gotten a bad rap because everybody thinks it's a white Zinfandel. It's not. Most of the rosés are made from the Pinot Noir grape. Again, they just take the skin off at an optimal time so that it has that pink hue. So it goes exactly back to what you were saying. So yeah, interesting. There's a lot of, it's just such a fun thing.
Oh yeah. No, wine, you can really dig down deep into it. And that's one of the things I was really lucky when I lived in France. I became friends with a young man who owned a wine shop, and his father made wine and had a very, very famous chateau in France. And so first time he met me, since I was interested, he said, wow, I've never met an American who's interested in wine. That's great. I thought you all drank beer. And I didn't tell him, well, I do also drink beer. But so anyway, he took me to his father's place several, every couple of weeks or whatever, a month. Well, not that often. I didn't drink all that much, but I learned a lot from him and his father, and that was pretty cool. All right, well, we're drinking these in a certain order, and so and this is, if you're going to be drinking a lot of wines, you probably want to go from, we'll call it the lightest or the whitest to the heaviest, the darkest. I don't know what indicators you want to put on there, but they're usually, what you want to do is you want to drink those that are deeper, heavier wines last. And for us, that's going to be a Cabernet Sauvignon. So we started with the Chardonnay first, since it was the only white. Now we're doing the blend because it's a blend of several. And now we're going to what, Sarah?
The Zinfandel.
Oh, good. I love Zinfandel.
Yeah.
There's the label for the Zinfandel. Zinfandel is interesting in that, like I said, it's really not grown in very many places. One of those happens to be California. It started growing in California in the late 1800s. Of course, most of the wines that were planted, the vines that were planted in California were planted by missionaries in the 17, 1800s. And thank goodness, because of those of you who don't know, there was a great blight, I shouldn't say great, an awful blight of a disease, a rot that happened in France in the early 1900s. And the only way that all of those vines were saved was by going to California and taking a lot of the grafts, taking cuttings and bringing them over to France. So we actually saved France. We've saved France twice. Once in 1910 with their grapes, and once in 1940s with World War II. So they owe us a lot.
And when you look at a Zinfandel label, a lot of times they will proudly profess on there that it's an old vine Zinfandel.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, Sarah?
Well, it's basically what you said. I mean, if it professes to be an old vine Zin, then that's what it is. Those vines have been there for many years. They're hardy, they're sturdy, they've produced good fruit. Kind of going back to the whole, you can count on the Wagners to make good wine. Old vine Zin, it's going to be good because those vines have been there, they've produced, and they have flourished for years.
Yep. And you go to France, you ask them, hey, do you have any old vines? Old vine? They'll have to say no. If they tell you yes, do not buy from them. They're pulling your leg.
Hey, where'd you get those?
That's right.
Good old.
Okay, so Zin. So what do you for Zin? For me, Zin is always a lot of fruit, raspberries, cherries, blackberries. What have you got?
I always get a lot of pepper on a Zin as well, which is really good. But it's a little bit heartier, I think.
Yep.
A little bit heartier, almost like you can chew it, if that makes sense. Like you put it in your mouth and you could almost chew it.
Yep. That's what I was talking about earlier about the weight.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of wines, if you think of wine weight, think about it this way. Those of you who drink milk, you know the difference in your mouth and the feel of drinking, let's say, skim milk versus cream, heavy cream. And so the cream coats your mouth more. It's got more body to it. It really kind of fills your mouth in a different way than the skim milk does. And Sarah's right. This Zin has a lot of body. And if you even comparing this, of course, it's not a fair comparison, but to go back to the Chardonnay or any white, Chardonnay is probably the heaviest in terms of body of whites. But even that compared to this, there's a very different mouth feel from the Zin to the for example, the Chardonnay or a Pinot. If we had a Pinot Noir here, that would be also a very acidic but lighter bodied wine.
So I grew up, my dad is a self-taught wine expert, I'm going to say, which is where I received my love of wine. I don't have a very good memory, nothing like his. He's 97 and he could beat me every day with memory games, for sure. But you know, the thing about it is he taught me that wine is good, and you can find what you want in that glass. Does that make sense?
Yep.
There's so much complexity in your glass, and the fact you chew it or you swirl it and all those things. I mean, there's so much there to learn about what's in this glass. It doesn't necessarily have to be an expensive bottle. It can be a reasonably priced bottle, and you can have a great bottle of wine. Going back to the tannins and all those different things. So I applaud him for teaching me those things.
And we're really lucky too, because California, if you look at the great wine producing areas, California is smack dab right in the middle of one. You know, if you look at where wine really thrives, or I say vineyards really thrive, they're going to be between, the closer you get to the equator, the better. And so what you look at, if you look at the latitudes, we're looking at 30 to 50 in terms of meridian latitudes. You're looking at, those are really good. So the places where that falls is Europe, California, Oregon, Washington, for whites, New York. Down in the southern hemisphere, you've got lots of Chile, Argentina. You've got some places down there. You've got Australia on the other side. So those are the places where your wines, your vines are really going to thrive. You don't want it to be too cold, and you don't want it to be too hot. So, for example, places that still have potential, China is going to be one of our next biggest. If they can get it together, China's so large, a huge part of China falls right into that same kind of degrees of latitude there. Latitude. And they should be able to start producing wines. I haven't been keeping up with that kind of thing recently, but I'm guessing they're probably already making wines in China. And I don't know that for a fact, but if they're smart, they will be doing that soon, if they haven't already.
Very interesting point.
So this is, like I say, the Zen is one of my favorites. I love Zen. This is a very good example of a Zen, that jamminess. Again, as Sarah said, sweet is not what you're talking about here. You're talking about fruit.
Fruit. Hi, Jen.
So I have a question for the panelists. Can you recommend a Malbec from Chile or anywhere?
Oh yeah, well I can, Craig. I don't know about you, but
that's you.
And I could run and get it so you can see the label. I'll say it and then Craig can talk and I'll run and get it.
Okay.
The Catena Malbec is one of the greatest Malbecs, I think, out there. The Catena family is kind of synonymous with Malbec. So, you know, you see Malbec equals Catena. And their daughter, Laura, kind of went out on her own and they let her go. And this is her flagship, I guess. It's an excellent Malbec. There's lots though. Llama, Arenya, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. But I'll run and get the bottle.
Okay.
You say something about it.
I will. So Malbec originally came from France, Spain. Actually, I think I'm wrong there. I think it's Spain. Yes, I am. It is Spain. And if you find out differently, let me know, because I don't want to pretend like, but I know it's one of those two. I tell you what, I guarantee it's not from Germany. Let's put it that way. Anyway, and it thrives in Chile and Argentina. And so it's a great wine varietal, and I'll let Sarah show it to you and tell you a little bit more about it.
So here's the Catena wine label. So since 1902, for 4 generations.
Wow.
Yeah, the Catena family has grown wines in the foothills of the Andes Mountains. So really, They are, like I said, synonymous with a Malbec. Another one that I love, reasonably priced. We sell it for $15 a bottle. So I don't know what you'd find it out there. It's Llama, and it has a llama on the label. It is an old vine Malbec from Mendoza. That's a very good one. And then my other favorite one is the Ruca Malbec. So it's from Argentina. Those are probably my, this one here is $15. So again, that's one of the things that the wine shop that we pride ourselves on. We try to get affordable, really good wines. We have some also very expensive wines. I mean, we have some $300 bottle of wines in here. So, but we try to give you some good selections for some really reasonable prices. So you can find them out there. Good wine does not have to cost a lot of money.
Sarah, our next tasting, can we do some of those $300 bottles so I can try those?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Great. Yes, and so again, I'm pretty sure now that it's going to be Spain where Malbec originally comes from, because it would be in South America. It would have been the Spanish who would have brought over the vines, and not the Italians. I'm pretty sure, or not the French. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, look that up if you feel like finding it out for sure. Okay, so we've got this. Man, this Zinfandel I just love. I
know.
I just love it.
You know, people, you cannot beat Freak Show. Michael David in general. So let me do this. This is a good segue for Michael David. So Michael David, also some other wines that you might see on the shelves that they produce. They produce the ink blot. So the Freud, you know, the ink blot that you go in and you have to, you know, what you see with the ink blot. So the ink blot is one. And the ink blot, they have Earthquake. Earthquake comes in a Cabernet and a Merlot. Those are a little bit higher price-wise than these. They're kind of like the next step up. Then they have ones that we don't carry, but they have a reserve collection. And then they have ones that are actually called Michael David wines. So they have a pretty big arsenal. And again, I feel that you can't go wrong with anything that they do. Anything that they do, you can almost guarantee it's going to be good.
Right.
They've produced, they've proven that they are a brand that you can trust.
Very cool. That's, you know, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me get more impressed. Let's drill the next one here.
So now we're going to do the petite, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, in Illinois, we are bound by distributors, and so when I tried to order more petite, I couldn't get any more, and so I sold all I had. So I did thankfully have the foresight to save the bottles back that we were going to be using. So Craig has the petite.
Oh my golly.
Keep enjoying my Zin, and you're going to talk all about the petite. Now, you'll see that some people say it's not part of the Freak Show line. I think it is, because it's still got that fun, cool label. It's a circus kind of a label.
Right.
So
why would they say it's not? What would be the reason for that?
I don't know. Everybody's opinion.
It sure looks like it.
Yeah. So take it away.
Well, okay. So it looks like, do we have a question here, or okay? So petite, of course, petit and petite both mean small. I'm assuming that this is, well, I know this will be petite Syrah. And those of you, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but as we talk about Syrah is a varietal. We don't have a Syrah tonight, but Syrah is a varietal that originated in France. It's used in all of the Côte d'Aron, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Hermitage, Crow's Hermitage, all of these wines. It's also was imported or exported, sorry, to Australia and California, and in Australia it's called Shiraz. Same varietal, exactly the same varietal. So it's a noble grape. In California, you'll have some people call they'll say it's a California Syrah. You'll have some call it a Shiraz. Again, old world, new world. The old world,
yeah.
The French are going to not put forth the fruit up front. They're going to really rely on the tobacco, on the leather, on the pepper. You're not going to find that in a Shiraz, highlighted in a Shiraz from Australia. They're going to be highlighting the fruit. And so California, depending on which way they want to go, they'll call it either Syrah or Shiraz. If they call it Shiraz, fruit forward. Syrah, they're trying to go back old country and kind of pay homage to France there. Okay, so we got Petite Syrah here.
85% Petite Syrah.
Petite Syrah, and then wait, we have 15%. Let me guess.
Okay. This will be interesting. If anybody knows Craig, he cheats, just so you know.
Petit Verdot.
Oh, bravo.
Comes out just, I mean, just how could you not know it?
Not know it's Petite Verdot.
Okay, now, Sarah, I know nothing about Petite Verdot, so why don't you tell us anything you might know about it?
Well, it's a great grape. It's a lot of people. It's usually used as a blending grape, so you don't see it. It's definitely not something that you would find in a bottle at 100%.
Right.
It's a blending grape, but it's also a good blender, and so there's a lot of people. It's kind of has a cult following, so to speak. People really like the Petite Verdot.
Okay. Wow. Well, this is great. This is a lot of good jam, blackberry jam. You know, there's a lot of, again, all of these wines are very heavy the fruit up front, very little tannins. I mean, this is just kind of pushing all my good buttons. I'll tell you that. Wow. What do you remember about this wine? Since you can't have any of mine, what do you remember about it?
Well, it's been a while since I've tasted it, so I remember it's got a good mouthfeel. I know.
It does. It's, yeah, very good. It does. It has, now this one is the first one we've had that has started to have some tannins in it. So there's a little bit of that kind of astringency, that little drying out of the mouth here, but just very little, just pleasant. You don't want to, well, I don't want a wine that is going to be so astringent if I'm drinking just wine that it causes me to kind of, you know, pucker up and, you know, feel like I can't swallow. Now, when you're pairing a wine with something, then you can have a much more astringent wine because you're going to be also eating something with it.
Right.
And so that will help offset some of the astringency. But with this is really nicely balanced, man. This is really good.
I mean, some people strive for that cotton mouth. They want to taste that, and they want to just want to take a glass of water.
Yep.
You know, they won't because they love that feel, but
You're right.
people strive for that tannin.
Yeah.
So it's that's the thing. It's all personal preference.
Yep.
Everybody should drink what they like. You find what you like. You know, again, you don't have to have an expensive bottle to be a good bottle of wine.
Yep.
It depends.
Now, are all of these around the same price point?
Oh, they are. They're all $18.
Oh, okay.
They should be 20 or less at your local place.
Okay.
All the freak show.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just it. You can, you know, depending on the vintage, you know, the climate, the year, all those things go into the determination of a good wine, but it doesn't have to be price.
Okay. Yeah. No, there's proof right here. Okay. Well, listen, let's do this last one. And you join me now with the Cabernet. Cabernet is considered, look, if you're on the red end, most people are going to say Cabernet is the king of the reds. Chardonnay is the queen of the whites. And so let's go to the Cabernet. The Cabernet is really, really got just about everything if you are building towards a kind of powerful, full mouth, tannins. If you want all of these things in your wine, you really want something that's going to let you not just kind of lightly tap at the door, but kick the door down and let you know they're there. It's your cab.
Right.
And now Cabernet, what is Cabernet? This is interesting. Cabernet is actually about, I don't know how many hundreds, thousands of years ago. Cabernet comes from the Cabernet Franc grape and the Sauvignon Blanc grape. So that's how it gets its Cabernet Sauvignon name. It was a marriage of those two, a white and a red.
It's the professor teaching the students once again.
No.
Now the nose on this one, I don't know,
Yeah.
if anybody's following the flight, but I mean it's definitely different. You don't get the pepper, I don't think.
No.
In the Syrah. I mean, it's definitely it's a more powerful nose.
Yep, and there's you can get the oak out of the nose too. There's oak in this.
Yeah, and then when you taste it, this one happens to be, as far as a cab, it happens to be a little more fruit forward than some cabs.
Okay.
But it's still going to have that tannin feel that you want.
Okay. Again, if you're doing this at home, you want to look at the color. This is going to be probably this and the Petit are going to be the two darkest wines that we'll be drinking tonight. I haven't tasted it yet. I've never had this before.
Very good. You'll feel like I don't know if this is appropriate to say, so I apologize if it's not. But if you've been out, and you've had a little bit too much to drink, and you have a bottle of water by your bedside stand, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you have that mouth feel.
Cotton mouth, yeah.
Have from this, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel this on your teeth. You can feel it on your tongue. You can feel it on the. It's got that now, but it's not like Sarah said. It's not overpowering. It doesn't knock you down and like stuff cotton in your mouth.
Right.
It definitely lets you have the experience without beating you down into submission. Let's put it that way.
I like that. That's good. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, so I have a question, and then I'm going to ask that, and then I'm going to turn off my camera. And the group kind of wants everybody to turn on their cameras and wave at each other.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to do that from Craig's computer.
Okay.
So I'm going to
All right.
ask the question, turn off my camera, let you answer, and then I'll start turning on cameras.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And if I don't get a chance to talk again, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thanks to Craig and Sarah. This event's recorded, and it'll be on our website. So if you didn't take the diligent notes like you wanted to, you can go back and watch it again, watch it on Thanksgiving, share it with your friends. So I appreciate that. But my question is from Andy Kerr in Arizona. What's the difference between Petite Syrah and Syrah?
Very good. They have no connection whatsoever. They're very different varietals, and they just the name. I don't know how they came up with the name, but they are very different varietals. Sarah, you know anything that I don't?
Just like you said, different grapes. One is SIRAH and one is SYRAH.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know the answer. That would be another, other than the fact that it's a different grape.
Right.
I don't know why they're so closely linked in name.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. No. But I do, if I remember correctly, I do remember that from my days when I was studying to be a sommelier.
I didn't know.
No, I'm just joking.
Oh.
All right.
Hey, just in case any of you don't know Craig Vivian, he is something else. He is one of the perks of me purchasing the wine shop. My friendship with him has definitely been a bonus. And
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Same goes for me.
I miss you. We haven't seen each other for a long time.
I know it.
And I miss him because he comes in on every Tuesday and runs a game night, and he cheats, but that's okay. We're all used to it. But I miss him greatly, and so I'm really ready for this to be over. So I can see him all the time. Oh, this is so fun to see everybody. Hi. Oh, there's Julie and Michael. Hi, Hannah.
There you go.
Hi, Chris.
Where's Maddie? Where's Maddie?
There's Jenny and Andrew, Cassie.
I can't, yeah.
Cheers.
Very cool.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was fun.
Yes, and now I know the difference between Syrah and Petite Syrah.
All right.
That's huge. I just thought one was a smaller version of the other.
That's right. Petit Syrah is a small.
Reinhardt.
Now, I will tell you this. I don't know who that is speaking, but the reason it is called one of the, huh?
Andy Kerr.
Andy Kerr, Andy. The reason it is called Petit Syrah is because if you look at the size of the grape in the cluster, you have different, so for example, Cabernet will be a larger grape, thick skin, larger grape. The Petit Syrah will be a much smaller grape on the cluster. So that's one of the reasons why the name Petit is in there. Same with Petit Verdot, is that it's a smaller grape on the cluster.
Hi, Lucy. Unmute yourself and
Thank
put
you.
yourself on video.
This is,
Pam, where are you?
this is my first Zoom, and this makes my heart so happy to see all you people. This is so fun.
That's great. That is great.
Do we have to stop? Can we talk about the pairing discussion? Because I bought some of them.
Sure. I mean, I don't have to go. I have nowhere to go but home.
Yeah, really.
Great. Yes, please. Can we ask questions? Can they ask?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
On the Dry Creek Chenin Blanc, too much wine. Dry Creek Chenin Blancs and the Portlandia Pinot Noir. So what should I drink it with?
You want to know about them, or
What should I drink them with? You
The
said
Pinot Noir you can drink with anything.
yeah?
okay. A good happy hour wine.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
The Chenin Blanc is just, to me, I love the Chenin Blanc grape. It's got a lot of mineral aspects to it, yet it's tart and crisp. Like I said, I like to liken it almost to a Smith apple.
Okay.
The Portlandia is a very smooth yet full-bodied Pinot Noir. It's from the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Really, the Willamette Valley are rock stars when it comes to Pinots. You can get, if I see something is from the Willamette Valley, 98% of the time it's going to be good. They're just,
One we didn't hear about.
they've learned how to master the Pinot grape. But you can serve it with anything, you know?
And you said the Chenin Blanc is good with turkey.
Absolutely. If you're,
Okay. We know what we're doing next Thursday.
yeah, the Pinot Noir and the Chenin Blanc, depending on if you want a red versus a white, both of those are excellent with turkey. They'd be great with yum. They'd be great with if you did like crab legs or something like that.
Great. Well, I live in the Chicago suburbs and Market Alley Wines is my favorite wine bar. And I have many to choose from.
Oh,
I'd like to ask another question, and that is, you know, for a long time, Merlot was a real hot grape, and you don't hear much about Merlots anymore. Did they upset somebody, or?
Craig, you answer that, but I'll be right back.
Sure. Yeah. Well, common wisdom is that what happened was there was a movie called Sideways, which was released
Yeah.
about 20 years ago. And in that movie,
Give it a bad.
it was about some people who were interested, who were in the industry or wine snobs. And one of them made a comment, which was that he would never drink Merlot. Merlot is a noble grape varietal. Merlot is a great wine. But the idea, what happened was California started planting a lot more Pinot Noir and less Merlot. And when this movie hit, Merlot sales went down dramatically and precipitously. And so that caused, of course, the market effect was that California stopped planting as much Merlot, or stopped even kind of producing as much Merlot. And it ended up creating something, this is just a little bit risque, but it ended up creating something in the industry called Pinot envy. And so that was unfortunate for the Merlot varietal, because Merlot is a fantastic wine.
So on the heels of that, this is called the Velvet Devil. Okay. This is by Charles Smith Wines. It's very reasonably priced. He was a rock band manager back in the 80s. And he saw this wine boom starting to happen. And so he thought, I need to get on board. Much like you see the sports figures, you know, they're all, Michael Jordan has a tequila, and you know, all these people are getting into the spirit world. So he was kind of a pioneer, and he said, you know, I need to get into this world. I see something happening here. So this particular bottle, the Velvet Devil, is a nod to the movie Sideways, because it's that poo-poo grape that everybody wanted to say, oh, you're drinking a Merlot. Well, you're stupid. You don't know what you're doing. But the Merlot is an underappreciated grape, and it's a great grape.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the movie Sideways and you're in quarantine or you're looking for things to do, watch it. And then if you can get out, go get the Velvet Devil, because it's a great, cheap, great Merlot.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to kind of play off of that, another movie, if you want to see some movies in quarantine, or just because of, you know, you're home, another movie that you might want to see is called oh gosh, I can't think, I'll think of the name in a second, but it is a movie about the what was called the oh my gosh, I'm losing it. It was a contest. It was a Steven Spurrier, huh?
Sour Grapes?
No, not Sour Grapes. That's a good movie too. No, back in the 70s or 80s, Steven Spurrier, who was a wine critic from England, put on a tasting, a blind tasting between California and French wines. And this was, it's a great movie. It's a great movie because it really is, it's true. In the 70s, nobody thought California wines were worth anything. They thought they were kind of Gallo wines, basically. And Judgment of Paris, that's what it's called, Judgment of Paris. You know, you all know your Greek history, right? Judgment of Paris. Paris is asked to judge who's the most beautiful, and that leads to the Iliad. It leads to the Trojan War. But in this case, it was a wine tasting between French wines and California wines. And what happened with French judges was that the two winners were both California wines, a California Cabernet and a California Chardonnay. And this just turned the wine industry on its head. California became the new place where great wines were going to be made, and France had to do a real a reassessment and reflection on their own wine industry. But that's Judgment of Paris is a great movie to watch, and it's based on historical fact.
So on those lines, if any of you have had the chance to go to California, to the wine country, you'll see I was there about, I don't know, 15 years ago, and it was still, it was not brand new, but it was still new. Now, if you go, Napa has just boomed, and not necessarily does that mean that the Napa wines are better. I think it's just kind of been commercialized. And if I were to go tomorrow, I would focus on Sonoma versus Napa. I mean, there's a lot of really good wines that come from Napa. Don't get me wrong, but I think that it has been that whole fanfare, the Oscar, the glam, the glitz, red carpet. Napa has kind of become the top, the upper echelon of those things. But California has made and produced some amazing wines. And so, the French do have to worry a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A question from Ohio.
Yes.
Okay, I'm curious the difference in prices between Ohio and Illinois. For instance, for the Chardonnay, I paid $14.99. What do you sell that for?
Okay, so I sell that here for $18.
Wow, I'm glad I live in Ohio.
I know, but you do have to remember that I am a small business that buys on small volume. So if you purchase that from a big box store, let's say like a Total Wine or a Walmart or something like that, you do have to remember that they get case volume deals. I can't do that.
Have you ever
Okay,
heard of the party store?
Oh, that's a, Ohio is the same price in any store in the state unless they're discontinuing the wine.
Oh, well, that's nice. You're lucky because that's not the way it is in Illinois.
Yeah. Well, and you're talking about what, $3 difference. I mean, to keep for us here, speaking as a citizen of Monmouth, I am very happy to pay $3 to keep Sarah and the wine shop Market Alley here in town. We don't have much in Monmouth that we can, places we can go to. I mean, they've got weekends. They have people coming in and doing art projects. They've got every Friday and Saturday night, they have open mics, bands playing music. It's really a cultural center for Monmouth. And to save $3 and go to Walmart would destroy a huge.
We don't shop at Walmart. We have
Well, I don't mean Walmart, but you know what I mean. To save $3 for us is not worth it as a community. But I mean, no, I'm with you. I understand the market, the market kind of demand. But for us, it's worth paying the $3 to keep this alive in Monmouth, because I really, if you don't live in Monmouth, I don't know what a lot of people would do if they didn't have Market Alley to go to every weekend.
And believe me that if we could charge less, we do not have a high margin. I promise you, we are not getting rich in this game. We try to service our customers and make a little money on the side. And
that was not Bob's question. He was
cheaper.
just curious.
So we just don't have the space to get, because a lot of the times it's a matter of you have to do a 10 or 15 case deal on one wine. So that would mean I'd have to get 15 cases of just this wine. I don't have the room to hold that.
Yeah.
So, but Benny's does and Total Wines does. And so I'm glad that you can get it cheaper, and I wish that I could compete, but I can't. So I just try to give you guys a good experience when you come in the door.
It was very nice. I do want to say one thing though. I think Chardonnay does not go with turkey.
No, I'm not. I agree. I don't think Chardonnay does either. That's why I suggested a Chenin Blanc or a Pinot Gris or a Pinot Grigio. Yeah, Chardonnay can be harsh depending on.
I like Chardonnay, but it makes turkey taste metallic.
Right. That's why I think you should do a more of a Pinot Gris or a Pinot Grigio or a Chenin Blanc. Or even Sauvignon Blanc.
And probably, that was probably me who said Chardonnay. I probably threw that in with the other whites. Two things, just so I come off very clean and honest with you. Number one, I don't like Chardonnay. Number two, I'm a vegetarian. So I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Marilyn, what do you like with Chardonnay? I mean, with turkey, rather.
Well, see, I'm a big red person, so.
A person, another virtual wine tasting we had a couple weeks ago, they suggested Grenache with the turkey.
Grenache.
Grenache with what?
Grenache with the turkey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good.
And
Wow.
it's
That's
just-
interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Huh.
Do you like the Syrah grape, Marilyn? And
Yes.
so if you could
And
ever find,
I love Zinfandel. I love Cabernet. Yeah, I'm a red wine person.
okay, so I'm gonna run and get another bottle and then hopefully you can find it.
Oh, okay.
And I will describe her running. She's running down the aisle. Okay, no. A couple other varietals that you might find interesting that maybe you haven't tried. One is Gewürztraminer. Gewürztraminer is a German wine, which is excellent. It's got a it is very interesting. It's different than most things you'll taste. And it is right now, Sarah's turn.
Oh, okay. It's like I was in a supermarket suite.
Sweepstakes. That's right.
Oh, this, I don't know if you can see this. This is a French wine, and I am not French, nor do I ever claim to be, but
Oh, that's great.
Pesquis
Yeah, Pesquis. That's
is
great.
a blend of 60% Grenache and 40% Syrah. This is, can you see that, Marilyn?
How do you spell it?
It's Pesquie.
Okay.
If you can find that wine, you're going to want to buy it by the case.
Okay.
It is so good. Now, obviously, different vintages are better than others. It's kind of like that whole, winemaker. Once you make a good wine, this is an amazing wine.
Yeah, no, that's good.
What year is that?
This one is the 17.
Okay.